Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adria Morgan, and we're the Lambs. We've been tasked with reducing the rising costs of higher education without sacrificing the quality of the degree earned. As rising seniors, this issue is upcoming and very close to all our hearts. We've all begun to worry about the cost of college coming up in the next coming years. To begin tackling this issue, we went through extensive brainstorming, analyzing all the contributing costs that led to the increase in tuition. Our conclusions found many aspects under each topic, and our final decision was to make the FAFSA funds distribution a more effective process. Sarah and Sephra will now elaborate on the issues we discovered within the current funds distribution equation.
The FAFSA formula that we use today was created in the 1960s. The average household has greatly differed from the past 50 years.
In today's age, the percentage of college applicants has risen to 80% between 1970 to 2010. With this consideration, 37 million student loan borrowers already have outstanding loans post-graduation. This information, along with new expenditure patterns, such as cellular and internet usage, has not been taken into account in the new EFC calculations.
Today, 91% of the people use cell phones and 85% use the internet. The FAFSA formula needs to account for these changes in today's society.
Our solution is the FAFSA Redistribution Act. This policy is created to amend the way a student's estimated family contribution is determined by changing relevant key factors. By putting this policy into place, the pool of students will increase. These are the students who have been denied aid under the current FAFSA formula. With this policy, they will have a better opportunity to receive aid that accurately represents their current living situation.
Our first revision of the bill addresses any school loan that a student's family may already have. This means any debt that students' parents are still trying to pay off. The revision of the formula will take this into account and try to prevent the family from acquiring more student debts. The second revision of the formula will be to consider modern spending assumptions. In a current living situation, families have expenditures such as cell phone bills, internet, and other spending needs that were not necessary in the 1960s. The current formula is not representative of spending habits in 2013 and future generations. In total, the revised formulas will give students a more accurate estimate of the aid they should receive in comparison to the aid they are receiving from the current formula that was established in the 1960s.
So, how are we gonna implement this? We have several steps. The first off, we're gonna file the bill and send it to the Congressional Budget Office so that they can give us a total calculation of how much this implementation is gonna cost. After that, we're gonna make modifications based on congressional decision so that we satisfy the needs of the concerns of people who oppose this bill. After that, we're gonna initiate a 4-year pilot program to test this new bill and record data. After that, we're gonna analyze the data provided and adjust the bill once again to resolve final concerns created by the pilot program, and if it works, we're gonna make it permanent.
Given that the amount of aid given to students and that you would want to keep other students from losing the amount of aid they would have received previously on the FAFSA, there would need to be an increase in revenue to cover the possibility. 0.5% increase on the income of private universities that are for-profit would bring in at about $165 million due to the fact that they bring in about $33 billion in revenue. In order to prevent excessive expenditures with this new bill, about a 50% increase cap, which would be $18.25 million, which would be added onto the $36.5 million previously, would keep the cost from going up. Oh, it's a timer. Oh, I'm so sorry. It would keep the cost from becoming too excessive, and would make sure that the bill is feasible.
To gain support for our FAFSA Act, our partners would be composed of the Texas and federal Pell Grants, and most importantly, the Texas Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. Since the grant programs have an established mission of giving students the necessary financial resources, they are then able to receive a post-secondary education. And by matching our objective with their mission, these programs will in turn associate with the revision of FAFSA. Finally, the Texas Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators would be our most essential partners due to the fact that they worked hand in hand with both state and national representatives and senators to ensure access to higher education for all students. With all this being said, the partnership generated with these programs will fortify our standpoint.
Our opponents would be for-profit universities. This is due to the 0.5% tax on their annual profits to fund the increase in money needed for the new FAFSA amendment. Both non- and for-profit universities will realize this investment due to the potential increase in attendees.
Due to this new policy, we wanted to portray how students should feel once they are considering college, which was the inspiration that drove me to implement a slogan such as "Your future is in your hands." This not only creates a sense of financial relief, but also allows students to feel in control of their college education.
We are asking for your support of this bill to make the FAFSA more relevant to the current situations of students. With your support, we can make sure students have the proper help they need to attend college without financial burdens. Thank you for your time, and we will now open up the floor for questions.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. So you selected to tax private universities. What was your method of going after the publics? Going after the privates versus the publics. What was your rationale?
The mission between the for-profit and the non-profit is essentially the same, to educate as many people as possible, because it's similar to how the government taxes cars for using roads. They tax the people that use certain. They tax the
Most closely related consumers.
Thank you. Taxing the most closely related consumers creates a logical link between the sources of revenue, because if you tax people who are using or who just buy bananas and use excessive taxes of bananas for education, it won't exactly make any sense. And because these nonprofit universities are in fact nonprofit, their mission is not to gain from education. Their purpose is similar to philanthropy, and so we would seek to encourage that.
I'm wondering if you don't think there might be other opponents that aren't listed on your opponent list. I mean, the for-profit universities you're taxing are the kind of obvious people that would object to this because they're paying for it. Could you think of other opponents that might be out there, maybe for not just for their own reasons of their own interest, but also for other kind of political or ideological reasons?
Yes, actually, there would be the debt-free families that, since now we're taking into consideration that the families that have debt, that now they will receive more money just because their parents can't help with since their income can't help with paying of the university, in contrast to those that have no debt since their parents are able to pay. And
the parents who do have debt would be given more money because they're trying to compensate for both the new student loans and previous student debt. The parents that don't have any debts to speak of, or whose debts are almost entirely negligible, would be receiving less aid because they can devote more of their resources into the students' loans.
So the impetus for your policy prescription here is increased costs, and the examples you gave were internet use and cell phones. But presumably, there were costs that families faced in the 1960s when the formula was established that no longer exist. So do you think that overall, sort of the costs now that we have now sort of outweigh the costs that no longer exist?
What kind of costs would you say don't exist? Because a lot of, we reviewed the FAFSA, we refer to the EFC program that you fill out, and a lot of it is updated constantly. For example, there's a veteran program that's being implemented this year in 2013 to apply to students who went to military school and weren't discharged honorably. So it is updated every once in a while. The problem is it doesn't take into account new kinds of expenses. It builds on the basic ones that were established in the 1960s, and those tend to be the most relevant ones. Like, actually, I can't really think of an example. But the basics are there, and they still are actually relevant. So we don't entirely need to worry about it. It's the additional costs that we would need to worry about.
Yes. So I'm totally for this simply because I need financial aid. But my question is, how is this going to work for those families that don't have debt? Why should they have to pay the burden when certainly I'm sure those kids whose parents don't have any debt went to college, they worked hard for their kids to have those opportunities. And mind you, yes, of course, everyone deserves equal opportunity, but how is it that you're going to take some, I guess, opportunity from another simply because these people, you believe, deserve it more?
We consider it to be more of an issue of equality than a penalization of families who don't have debt. Because potentially their income, as Alex mentioned before, their resources can be pooled to help pay for college. And the FAFSA and the EFC numbers are a way of analyzing a student's financial situation and their ability, based on their resources, to pay for college. And so it's not necessarily that we're penalizing families who don't have debt or the other way around, but a way of updating this so it more accurately reflects the student's financial situation and their ability to pay for college.
Thank you, that's time.
I just want to add, that was freehand, guys.